whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Which car are we gonna take?
Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. I appreciate all of you being here each and every day. I love our community. And what? Kim McAllister, do you see this?
No. Welcome for National Bundt Cake Day. What?
Yeah, exactly. You sound
Bring
a little
it.
low to me, Kim McAllister. You sound a little bit low. Maybe move closer to your microphone. I don't know. Yeah, it's National Bundt Cake Day. Ooh, I do love me a bundt cake. Nothing Bundt cakes. They're red velvet. Oh, Brett Burkhart, my old colleague, always used to get them for my birthday. Oh, and it was the only day that I could really indulge in something like that. But happy National Bundt Cake Day. That's just a baseball term. But thanks for joining us, you guys. Yes, Ricky, thank you for the heads up. Please make sure you click that thumbs up button that you've liked and subscribed to the show. I really appreciate it. I don't know. You just sound low to me.
No,
let us
said
know in the
same
comments.
thing yesterday. I don't know what the heck's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I'm just turning up my volume in my headphones so I can hear you. But if anybody else is,
I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix it.
It might be I'm loud. I don't know. I could be loud and you could be quiet, which actually is pretty
No,
true.
I think it's me because they said the same thing yesterday, so I don't know.
Oh well, whatever. I can hear you, and that's all
Okay.
that matters. So let me actually. You know what? Let me just bring down the music a little bit. Okay, click the thumbs up button. Show your support of the show. The super chat is live. If you want to throw us a couple dollars for a super comment, super thanks, super sticker, we really appreciate that as well. I think it was the Jess yesterday who was watching us on Twitch. Which, if you have Twitch fans in your life, please let them know to watch the Nikki Medoro Show. You can watch it on Twitch, you can watch it on YouTube, but I'm trying to expand our reach, of course. And please, Jess did it yesterday. Please become a Medorable. Sign up on our Patreon page, and you can find the link at thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. We depend on you guys so much to keep this show going. And, we try to find different ways to monetize it, but the Patreon, that guaranteed kind of monthly thing that we can bank on, really does keep the light on. You can also PayPal us. TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com is the email. It's very simple. Just go to paypal.com, hit send money, and then that's the email address, TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. Merch shop, TheNikkiMedoroShop.com. The holidays are coming. So what better way to show your support for the show and put some stocking stuffers and gifts in people's hands than to go to our merch shop as well. I'm also going to be, somebody had reached out to me 2 days ago, and I forgot to mention it yesterday, regarding what was in my favorites box. And so I think I'm going to do some quick little videos if you guys want to purchase some of the things that I recommend. And I think I'm going to try to do more of those as well. But the first thing that I'm going to do a video on, which they mentioned specifically in the email, was the sleep mask. I've done like little cute TikToks. I mean, if there was anything that I fully recommend, it is my sleep mask. So I'll do that. Maybe I'll get an affiliate link. So, I get a little bit of money that way, but I will never recommend something that I don't love. And that sleep mask, I was even thinking about it today because I made the mistake, Kim, last night. I watched Miss Americana again with my kids, which is a Taylor Swift documentary. Okay. Every time, and it happens to me every time. I had the weirdest dream last night, and one part of my dream
was Taylor Swift.
No, I just heard a Taylor Swift song. Don't ask me the song. I don't even want to dig into my brain for it because it just kept going and going. And the second part of my dream, love you, honey, and I have no idea where this man came from, like from the depths of my psyche. Just last night, Luke Perry, 90210 fame, passed away. My first heartthrob. Was like flirting with me in my entire dream. And I kept being like, I am married. And that was my whole dream. Is this Taylor Swift song going and Luke Perry, and not older Luke Perry, like 90210 Luke Perry, flirting with me. And so the reason I bring this up with the sleep mask is because my eyes kept opening, right? And the thing is, this sleep mask that I have, you can fully open your eyes and it's still pitch dark. Because I don't know about you, but if I open my eyes and I see my phone, the clock, a little bit of light going through my window, that also sets me off. So love my sleep mask. There's a little commercial for it.
I'm trying to think about what your dream could mean.
I know that Taylor Swift was because I watched it, and obviously I was listening to her music, but I have no idea.
Afraid of losing your youth?
Oh, how dare you, woman?
I'm
I know.
sorry, but I'm just kind of thinking, why would he be in there?
I have no idea. It was so random. And it wasn't until I woke up that I realized, like, in the dream, he wasn't Luke Perry. He
How
was
dare
just
you.
a guy that was flirting with me. But when I woke up, I'm like, oh my God, that wasn't just some rando. That was Luke Perry. I don't know. It was very, very odd.
Huh.
But yeah, that was my dream last night. But it was, I literally woke up earlier. It was like 6:45 this morning. I'm like, screw it. I'm up. I'm going to take a shower. I couldn't sleep. It was just going and going and going and going in my brain. And that's why I do love my sleep mask, though. It's awesome. Calvin 90210 returns to sexy times. Yeah. I'm telling you, and I've told the story before, when Luke Perry passed away, I was crying on my way to work. I was so devastated. Okay. So the show coming up today, we are going to start with the big news about Univision. I'm really torn on how I feel about this, right? So Univision, if you haven't heard, Spanish language television station, apparently they were purchased by a Mexican media company, or they merged with a Mexican media company called Grupo Televisa. And so that happened in 2021. Well, apparently, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, arranged an interview with Univision and Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Okay. And after this event, there's been some turn of events. Univision's advertising representatives told the Biden campaign that TV spots that they already purchased. Okay. So it's not as if this is they want to purchase. They've already purchased these spots to run during a Trump interview in Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Florida have been canceled. No. Like, we're giving you your money back. They say it's due to a policy that they've never announced or talked about before this moment about opposition advertising when there are single candidate interviews. My question, and the first thing I thought of was, then when is Biden's single candidate interview? When are you doing any of those? I don't know if Biden even wants to do one. Univision also canceled a booking with Biden's Hispanic media director to respond to the Trump interview after it aired on the network. So no kind of, rebuttal, as they say. Not since 2004. And now this is what's freaking out Democrats. When former President George W. Bush outperformed expectations among Latino voters, has the Spanish-speaking population been so up for grabs in a presidential contest? Now, if that's true, why not be fair about it, right? Like, why? It to me, it was shocking so many people when this was announced. Now, Univision's news division, according to the Washington Post, has fostered a reputation for challenging power with abrasive questions, and Republicans have largely steered clear of being on Univision. How does this make you feel? And I don't know if I have any Univision watchers out there. I don't know if there's anybody. Oh, Kim lost her power. Thank you for letting me know, David. I don't know if anybody out there watches Univision. But let me know, how do you feel about this? Now, I grew up in a half Spanish-speaking household, okay? My grandmother lived with us my whole life. She spoke Spanish. My mother spoke Spanish. My dad did not speak Spanish, so we didn't have to learn Spanish, and we didn't really learn Spanish. But my grandma used to watch, her soaps, as she called them, her stories, actually. That's what she would call it. And but I don't watch Univision, but I could imagine that if that is the only place you tune to, right, then there could be obviously a skewing of how you feel about it. Let's see. Let me read some of these comments. Now Lori is responding to Chris. She says, did you ever watch ABC soaps in their heyday, just as hyperbolic as telenovelas? It's just sad most American soaps are gone. Oh, they're talking about the telenovelas. Absolutely. Ricky says Univision's been bought. with the growing Hispanic and Spanish speaking population in the United States, this can get dangerous. And I mean dangerous as far as we understand that when you create an echo chamber, right? When you're only getting your news and information and talking points from one source, this is what happens, right? And I'm not saying that there aren't criticisms about other types of media out there, but this is the problem. This is the problem. And I think that Univision is doing a disservice to its viewers. Now, okay, I would even say the ads, if you're a media company, perhaps you can decide what kind of advertising you want to accept. I do think it's really suspicious that you already accepted the money, accepted the paid spots by the Biden administration, and now you're turning them away. I think that's total BS. It seems very obvious that you have now been talked out of doing something like that. I could also see, this is how I can imagine. This is me putting on I can imagine this is how the conversation went with former President Trump. Univision goes to meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Trump says, in no uncertain terms, if you want me to do this interview and your ratings are going to be the best ratings that you've ever had, that's what he's going to say, right? If you want that to happen, then you cannot let any opposition ads run during my interview. And he talked him out of accepting Biden's. And then they're going to create this fake, we had a policy where we don't allow that anymore BS. But not allowing a rebuttal afterwards just is totally Trump-like. I don't want any criticisms. I don't want to have to turn on my interview, which is the best interview ever, and then listen to any sort of criticism right after. That's how I imagine it happening, right? Is that Trump has decided that he does not want anything negative to be attached to the interview that he's doing on Univision. So, I mean, but there's nothing that can be done here. I mean, they're a company. They can make their own decisions. James says they'll turn Univision into another right-wing propaganda network. Rosie was surprised. I'm not surprised. Univision, I think it was having some money issues also. So I'm not surprised that they want Trump. They want what Trump will bring to their ratings. And look, you know what? Just because somebody is somebody people want to watch doesn't mean he's good for the country, right? Ratings do not equal good leader, great president. It means it's an S show that people love to watch. I'm concerned. I'm absolutely concerned. Eric says, if you consume one source of media, it can absolutely influence you. Look at Fox News. Excellent point. That's exactly what I think of. Not only that, but I've mentioned this before. How many people do you know that gave up on Fox News? And so now I only watch Newsmax and OWN. You're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way. Anybody that tells me that they no longer watch Fox News and now watch OWN or Newsmax means they don't like to hear any sort of criticism about their political party or about former President Trump. Because any sort of balance on what is actually going on is obviously Democratic deep state propaganda. God forbid your little echo chamber bubble has tiny holes pricked in it, right? Eric goes on to say, the Univision execs are in bed with Trump, pure corporatism and authoritarianism, which benefits corporations. Takagoon, watching on Twitch. I have immigrant parents, and the GOP have that fake patriotism. They want to be American, although the GOP will never see them as equals. They are being used, hands down. But I'm going to add to this, and thank you for your comment, because it begs another question of when you've made it, right? When you've come from another country, whatever country that may be. All right. Let's just say though, Mexico, South America, somewhere in South America, and you've made it here, and maybe you even waited. You went through the legal avenues, right? You didn't seek asylum. You just, whatever. And that's your history. And then you see all these other people cutting in line. I'm putting it in quotes. Cutting line. Our immigration system is broken. It's been broken under Republicans and it's been broken under Democrats. So let's just stop with all that. And the number one reason, in my opinion, that the immigration system has a hard time being fixed is because our laws make it difficult. But we'll get back to that. Do you think that there is a growing sentiment within the Hispanic and Spanish-speaking members of our communities that are like, I'm done. I'm here, but I don't want you here anymore. I don't want you. I'm okay. you're not okay, right? They're starting to become wealthy. They're starting to get some of that wealth. They don't want to see other people get, cut into that. That can happen. That happens. There are people born and raised in this country that feel that way. Mario says Hispanics might be easily convinced to vote Republican because they're always lied to by Democrats about immigration reform. Interesting statement, Mario. Elaborate. What is the lie about immigration reform? What is the lie? Because I would say it's not necessarily a lie. It's a contradiction of what can be done. I want to say thank you to one of my Facebook followers and show fans, John, who writes me on Facebook all the time. And he left a comment talking about what's happening in New York City under Eric Adams. And we've talked about this on this show before. The migrants being sent by buses to places like New York City, sanctuary cities. We cannot conflate, okay? We cannot conflate sanctuary cities and asylum seekers, okay? Even though sanctuary cities deal with asylum seekers, right? Seeking asylum in this country is a legal process. Every time someone is upset about people seeking asylum in this country, I ask one question. Do you want to change the law to get rid of the fact that seeking asylum in the United States is legal? Because until you do that, and remember, we're dealing with a Congress that can't even pass a friggin' budget. So good luck, right? Getting something like that passed. So since it is the law of the land, since it is legal for people to seek asylum here, what's the answer? Right? You can't just blame Democrats. You have to blame all of Congress. Really, you honestly do. I'm not just going to say Republicans or Democrats. The system is broken because they've refused to work together on, I'm not going to say they're obvious solutions, but hard solutions. Hard solutions. Square says, what message could be louder than building a wall? Yeah, to people in Mexico or what have you. Oh, and remember, they're supposed to pay for it. Even Vivek Ramaswamy during the last debate says, I'm going to finish the wall and I am going to have Mexico pay for it. You're such a mini Trump. Like, get a personality. Get a personality. Yeah. And Dr. you're bringing up religion within the Hispanic community, which is laughable. It's laughable to think that former President Trump lives his life based on any of the teachings, and I'm just going to choose Christ, right? Of Christ. I mean, because Christ wants to take care of those that need help, but he doesn't want them as long as if they come from another country. That's just the truth. It's hard. It's hard to understand what can happen in 2023 versus when these laws passed years and generations ago. I read one statistic, Ellis Island, because people are concerned about what do we know about these people coming into our country, right? Less than 2% of people that came into Ellis Island were screened, right? The difference is they didn't depend on the city for services. Now, I'm willing to have that conversation. You come here seeking asylum, there seems to be a thought that, okay, well, then you're on your own. You need to, if you want to seek asylum here, then you need to find out a way of getting a job and paying for things. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. Because that's going to bring me to the issue that John, one of our listeners, brought up. New York Mayor Eric Adams is urging parents in New York to prepare for an all hands on deck as the city has slashed newly trained safety agents due to the ongoing migrant crisis. He's warning parents that they need to volunteer at their children's schools to do safety. I'm going to play you a little bit of this press conference where people are not happy. And here's my question as you watch it. If you were a parent of somebody at a school in New York and they told you, all right, you need to come. We need some school safety officers. We need you to help. What would your response be? Okay, here's a little bit of New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
We have been successful, unlike other municipalities where they're having shootings on school grounds. In some cases, of mass shootings. We have not had one shooting inside our schools because of the work of school safety agents and New York City Police Department. And so my conversation with the chancellor, who was a former school safety agent, and the commissioner, that we have to make sure that we continue to create an environment for our children. We have to shift around personnel as much as possible. We have to do a real evaluation on where do we have the high need schools. And we're going to be leaning into parents and parent groups to do some volunteerism. We're going to lean into our crisis management team. We have to pull it all hands on deck moment. But in my concern about that we're going to drop and make schools unsafe for our children, I'm never going to allow that to happen. But we are going to be straining at a very high level to get this done correctly.
Marsha.
So there is Eric Adams there. He wants people, parents, to kind of join together, help out, do some of the safety things. Now, here's my question. What would you do if you were asked to kind of help protect your school? Some parents at this meeting were literally saying, it is not my job. I pay taxes for you guys to educate my kids in a safe environment. The school safety agents that Eric Adams was talking about that now need to be cut so that some of the resources and money can go to the migrant crisis. As he mentioned, there hasn't been one mass school shooting in New York or New York schools. So it's working. So I would say as a parent, now you're taking away from my children's safety. And it is a point of privilege to ask parents to come in and use their work hours to monitor your school. Some parents can't do that. Maybe some can. Maybe in some more affluent areas where both parents don't work, but that doesn't happen all the time. What do we do here? Right? I have said this before, and John, he was always like, maybe you should change your opinion about sanctuary city policy. The reason why I don't change my opinion about sanctuary city policy is because the policy in and of itself isn't the problem, in my opinion. Okay. So sanctuary city policy just discourages police from being ICE agents. Local police solve local problems. There's a crime in your neighborhood. I want everyone to feel safe coming forward. I don't want people not speaking out about crime in their neighborhood because they're afraid they're going to be deported. That's not how you solve local problems and local crime. I don't know where I'm wrong there. What is wrong with understanding that people are not going to say that they witnessed a crime if they're afraid that the cop is going to bust them for being in the country illegally? Sanctuary communities, of course, go beyond cities. They could be counties. They could be entire states like California. These communities, this is the definition. They do not honor requests by ICE to detain undocumented immigrants whose local agents apprehend for misdemeanor crimes or investigations. So we're not talking murders here, right? Obviously, you'd be arrested, held, and we would know whether or not you're in this country illegally. Many in sanctuary cities also refuse to deputize their local officers as federal agents, which is what needs to be done if a local officer wants to carry out the duties of an ICE agent. And there is no specific federal law against sanctuary city policies. So what do we do here? I've said it's genius. And I mean that in a terrible, awful, no good, terrible way. But at the same time, you know what? The busing of people is horrific. They are not property. They are human beings, and they're looking for help. That is a fact. But two, it is also a fact that places like New York, San Jose, other places, that are away from the border have no comprehension of what it feels like when migrants who you may care about and your heart goes out to are flooding your community, using your resources, stretching or breaking your budgets. That is also true. And I just feel because of the separation, we don't have the same sense of urgency for the federal government to do something about it. But the answer is not to be heartless. Okay, the answer is to remember who we are or supposed to be as Americans. It is to use our resources in a way that is actually effective. Can you imagine, people, if we used all that freaking money to build a stupid ass wall that won't even work and instead used it to beef up our court system, get more people to the border to check who these people are, hire more border control agents, use technology to make sure that there is an effective, more seamless way of figuring out who can and cannot be in this country. That's what we need to do. But just like abortion, it doesn't necessarily serve Republicans to solve the immigration crisis. It doesn't serve anybody if you can't point to it and saying, that's why you should vote for me. You should vote for me because this problem is never getting solved. Just in case you haven't been paying attention, the wall isn't going to solve it either. I don't know how many of us could even imagine the desperation involved in trying to get over into this country. And to underestimate that drive by saying, oh, we'll just build a wall is ignorant. You think that they crossed rivers and desert and many of them lost their lives and they're going to let a wall stop them? No, it's not going to happen. John says, you want to destroy the American economy, stop all illegal immigration. That's the reality of the situation. Ding, ding, ding. Republicans love to bash migrants, quote unquote, illegal immigration, illegals living in the country. And yet they benefit economically by it every single day. Go talk to farmers. Mass, big, huge farms. Ask them how they feel about it. They want a better system. That's what we all want. We need a better system. And it can only really come from the federal government. And so Biden is in the White House. And everyone's going to blame him because the buck does stop with the president of the United States. But please do not make me laugh by claiming that Trump solved this problem. There is a way in which we can be humane, treat people with dignity, and use money in a more effective way to at least make a dent in the problem. Is all illegal immigration going to cease? No, of course not. Not all crime cease because we make laws. Okay, let's be realistic here. But if we really wanted to solve this problem, then Democrats and Republicans and everyone would work together, but they don't. They don't. It doesn't serve them to solve the problem. And again, we have to remember that this Congress, 2023 politics, to solve something that we have been talking about for decades. If it was easy to solve, we would have solved it. But we don't. We just don't. It's really difficult. Vilma says, my mother, who came from Central America, watched novellas. She always said Republicans are for the rich. Democrats are the closest thing the people have to work with. Lori says, need to increase judges, lawyers, and courtrooms and investigators available to process asylum claims. Probably need at least a 4-time increase. Bottleneck in processing using existing regulations. Yes. Look, people, again, if we wanted to solve this, we would use our money in a more economical way, in a way that actually made a difference. We wouldn't spend it building a wall. We would encourage people. You know, if you work in immigration reform, if you truly believe this is the issue of the day of our generation, you would go into these careers. Judges would work down there. Lawyers would work down there. The thing is, the most dangerous thing is the othering of these people, as if our country's fabric was not founded by immigration. We just need to improve it, and we just need to improve the system. So we'll see what happens in New York. And this is going to continue to happen. And now that winter's here, you know, they have to get these people into some sort of shelter. And that is just cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Tons of money that New York probably doesn't have. And it's going to come out of other people's pockets. And they're going to be pissed off. And they should be, because this is a failure. The federal government needs to, if you're going to have migrants come here, asylum seekers come here, Only the federal government can clear them to work. And I think I was reading an article, I want to say it's a little bit old, maybe from September. They're saying, at least in September, not one of the people seeking asylum in New York had been approved by the federal government to seek work. So what does that tell you? If you're going to allow them to be here, but the federal government is not allowing them to work, then they're going to need social services. And that is going to come from the city. It's going to come from the state, and it's going to piss people off. So it's a complete failure. And I'll also finally add this as well before we move on to the government shutdown, which is another example of how we can't ever seem to get anything truly done. The social services, the cost, all of that, making a decision right now doesn't serve people. And I'm going to call out Biden. He doesn't seem to be moving with the speed that this crisis, which it is, requires. And I think that he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to piss off voters. And he's going to piss off voters anyway, right? It's a political year. I'm not going to make any big changes. Not going to do anything. Got to get it back into the White House. Politics. The political divisions in this country completely cobble us from any sort of progress. Now, the House overwhelmingly voted yesterday to prevent a government shutdown. This again after Speaker Mike Johnson was forced to reach across the aisle to Democrats. I loved listening to Democrats today. Once again, Democrats have saved the country. It's true, but this is the way it's supposed to be. I was cracking up when I was listening to this interview with Jake Tapper, who was interviewing a Republican Congressman, John James. And they were asking about the fact that Republicans, Mike Johnson, had to reach across the aisle and get Democrats on board with this idea. Now, this is a total kicking of the can down the road. So what it would do is temporarily fund the government into the new year. But it's like a two-part type of thing. So it's a two-part process that temporarily funds some federal agencies until January 19th, and then others until February 2nd. It's called a continuing resolution, a CR. It comes without any of the deep cuts conservatives demanded all year. It does not include Biden's request for money for Ukraine, Israel, border security, and other supplemental funds, which, there we go, border security is right in there, right? So here's Jake Tapper, again, interviewing Republican Congressman John James about this reaching across the aisle. And listen to what John James says, and then listen to what Jake Tapper says afterwards. Here we go.
Well, bipartisanship shouldn't be controversial, especially when the reality states that we have a razor-thin majority in the House, we have a Democrat Senate, we have a Democrat president. Ultimately, if you say you care about the American people, well, paying our Customs and Border Patrol agents is caring for the American people.
Yep.
Paying our military members and making sure our veterans maintain their health care and mental health services is caring about the American people.
Yep.
Working in a bipartisan manner to get this spending bill through so that we can get our conservative appropriations bills through the House and then negotiate with the Senate to make sure that we fund the government while we're also looking forward to the future so we're not bankrupting our children's futures is essential. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm very proud to support this continued funding so that we don't shut the government down.
Yeah, everything you said just sounds completely sane. So I'm really confused, but okay.
Exactly. I mean, were those words coming out of a Republican congressman? Yes. We need more John James. Now, are we going to agree on everything? No, but what he was saying was absolutely correct. We need to fund government. We need to protect, our military. We need to make sure people are paid. This should not be a debate, but it seems like everything is a freaking debate. Everything is a fight. And I don't understand it. I just don't understand why we can't stop with the BS. And this, again, I'm going to go off on Trump just a little bit more. This is why I really, truly don't like former President Trump, is because he is always the victim if people don't agree with him. You're either with me or against me. And that's a dictatorship. We need to be able to listen to other people's ideas, other people's concerns. right? Even like I was talking about with the migrant crisis in New York City and them asking parents to step up to do safety in schools. John, who sent it to me on Facebook, he often disagrees with me. I don't know, John, if you're here or not, but I like hearing other people's opinions. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree. But we are such a large country that compromise should always win, right? There has to be a compromise because we don't live in a world, or I don't want to live in a country that is run by a dictator that will call out everybody as the enemy of the state simply for one, stating facts in some cases, or two, disagreeing with how he or she does things. Make your argument. And if I don't agree with it, make it better. Understand where I'm coming from. Address my concerns. Not saying I'll ever like whatever idea it may be. Some people truly believe that every single undocumented person in this country should be rounded up and, I don't know, brought into outer space. It'll never happen. But people will say it. People will say the words, shut down the border, close the border, as if they are actually living in reality, as if that is something that can actually be done. It cannot. It cannot be done. Physically cannot be done. And yet people say it with a straight face, as if that is a solution to a very complex problem. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Now, there was a moment yesterday. This was yesterday. Hold on. I'm just making sure. Yeah, it was yesterday. This was a congressional hearing between a senator by the name, Republican senator by the name of Mark Wayne Mullen. He's from Oklahoma. And a Teamster head by the name of Sean O'Brien. He's the president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. This was a hearing where apparently at one point things got pretty heated. He was reading a tweet, and by he, I mean Republican Senator Mullen, was reading a tweet by the Teamsters leader, Sean O'Brien, and I'm going to play it for you. This is where our politics is. This is how crazy it's become.
Like he's self-made.
This is him reading the tweet.
I wish he was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. You want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
No,
guy.
no, stop it.
Is that your
Sorry.
solution?
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator.
Exactly.
Actively.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it. If we can, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what he
it.
said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing.
So there's Bernie Sanders trying to be the voice of reason. What the hell? So now here is a little bit more. This is, I'm assuming after, this happened after the Teamsters head, Sean O'Brien, trying to respond, but he's still, now again, he's not a senator. So there's an argument that he doesn't have to be mature. Here he is responding.
Hold it. Answer the questions.
All right, y'all want he
Please.
made a lot of statements, right? And his statements are fiction at best.
Fiction, I read them.
Can you answer?
What?
Answer the question, please.
I can't understand him, to be honest with you.
Hold it.
I mean, okay. Now, Jake Tapper tried to get the true story out of Sean O'Brien. I do think people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know much about Mullen, so I'm not going to get too much into it, although I will have a clip with him giving an interview to a far right-wing thing first. But I'll go to Sean O'Brien first. Calling out senators during a hearing and being like this This is a consequence, I truly believe, of Trump. I'm not saying none of this ever happened to anybody else where people got snarky and said little one-liners that would get, media coverage or whatever. But when you have a president of the United States calling people names like that, right? Regularly, you're a nasty woman, all sorts of things that Trump has done when he was running for president and as president and ever since. This is what it leads to. So here is, now this again is the Teamsters head, Sean O'Brien, being interviewed about what happened with Jake Tapper. Here we go.
I'm sure you're plenty strong, but Mark-Wayne Mullen is a former professional MMA fighter. What went through your mind when he basically challenged you to a physical fight during a Senate hearing?
Yeah, look, what went through my mind was you're one of 100 of the most powerful people in the country, and you're acting like a 12-year-old in a schoolyard because you didn't get your way. I mean, look, he actually has the ability, and he's 100 of the elite, to actually effectuate change in this country, and he's focused on being a bully. We're not going to stand for it, and we definitely were brought up differently.
Okay, but can I say you're tweeting like a 12-year-old? I mean, your tweets were you're not a United States senator, okay? And I get that your tweeting is not the same thing as calling somebody out during a Senate hearing, but you know where to find me anyplace, anytime, cowboy. You're making fun of him for not being the tallest senator. I mean, you represent 1.3 million workers. Do you really think that tweet, there's the tweet right there with your pink circling of the apple box he's standing on. Do you really think that is best serving, best representing the members of the Teamsters Union?
His story is compelling but inaccurate. And in a hearing in March, he started the whole thing by coming into a hearing, looking at us and basically saying to me, I'm not afraid of physical confrontation. As a matter of fact, I welcome it. Mm-hmm. So that's what perpetuated the whole incident. Never knew the man in my life, never met him. I was testifying in my first Senate hearing, and that was his first introduction to me.
And you were at the hearing today, Bernie Sanders' hearing, which is about how unions improve the lives of workers. Are you afraid that message was lost because of this?
That's a good point.
I mean, we had some great dialogue in there about issues that affect working people, about organizing, collective bargaining, unionizing America. And there was a lot of different opinions, a lot of different debate. And it was great until Mark-Wayne Mullen, obviously, we're renting space in his head, decided to erupt. We do have a lot of differences of opinions on both sides. But the one thing that's clear is that today's dialogue outside of what happened was fruitful, productive. And the one thing we've been doing as a Teamsters union, I do represent 1.3 million members, and I do it in the best interest of my members. We've been reaching across the aisle to find common ground on issues that can help working people throughout America. And we're going to continue to do that. And unfortunately today, Mark chose to not act like a U.S. senator, and he's going to have to pay the consequences for that.
I will also say this, just to kind of be fair, and Jake Tapper mentioned it as well. If you're going to be a keyboard warrior, you stand up. I really try my hardest not to say, tweet, write anything that if you were standing in front of me, I wouldn't say to you. That's what you should do, especially as a Teamster head, right? But it is also, I think Fox and Friends, even this morning, was talking about this. They loved it. They loved it. Did you guys love it? I mean, I feel like, Vicky says Trump's given permission to people to act like this. And Randy's like, so the Teamsters isn't at fault? No, they're both at fault. I think if this was like outside of a Senate hearing or a congressional hearing, then yeah, I think anybody looking at it would be, you're both at fault. There is a difference though. One is a senator. One has a ton of power. It was not a level playing field at all. And it was beneath them. Mullen could have totally handled it a different way. But here he is on, one of my least favorite programs, channels. It's not news, even though news is in its name. Here's Mullen discussing the near fight on Newsmax. And here's what he had to say, which, again, tough guys.
That's right. Some people are real strong behind a keypad, but when they get called out, it's completely different. People's asked me too. They said, "Is this becoming of a U.S. senator?" And I was like, "Man, I'm a guy from Oklahoma first. In Oklahoma, you don't run your mouth like that. And if you do run your mouth like that, you're expected to be called out on it. And what would happen if I didn't call them out on it? I'm not looking for a street fight. My Lord, the last time I got in a fight, I got paid for it. And so I'm not. I don't need it. I don't need to prove it. But I'm sure not going to let this guy sat there because he's some Teamster. And he's a Teamster boss. And in 2022 said he wanted to bring the mob mentality back to the Teamsters. I'm going to let him run his mouth and do something like that. You have to be called out on it. If not, this guy continues to get away with this stuff. And it's just, it's silly, it's stupid, but every now and then you need to get punched in the face.
That is the
Now
quote
listen.
of the year, sir. But seriously, are there any
Listen to how this
actual
goes.
Senate rules that if two consenting adults want to duke it out? I mean, we had a United States Congressman pull a tooth on the House floor once. There's no rules about that. Could you guys
It was his
go
own
bare
tooth.
knuckle if you wanted to? There's no rules.
Well, we looked
against
into
that.
the rules, and you used to be able to cane. You got to remember President Andrew Jackson challenged 9 guys to a duel and won 9 times. In a White House dinner one time, a guy was mouthing him at the end of the table. Jackson jumped up, literally ran across the table and knocked the guy out. And so at the end of the day, there is precedence for it if that's what someone wants to do. In this case, and I challenged him once. You and I had talked about it. He didn't answer. He continued to run his mouth after that, continued to send out tweets. And so this was the first opportunity we've seen. And at the end of it, he tried to say, hey, I didn't mean it like that. I'd rather just go have a cup of coffee. And I was like, fine, let's go have a cup of coffee if that's what you want.
Yeah.
But
Who
I
thinks
don't
that's
think
gonna
that's
happen?
what he's meaning. I think he got called the carpet and he got really nervous because when he stood up, the look on his face was a little bit different.
You could actually see, I was looking down, I zoomed in, you could
All right, this is gonna be a demeasuring contest now. Yeah, I love how was it Vicky? Somebody in the comments was saying you don't see women acting like this. Yeah, Vicky, you don't see women behaving like this. Now, who was it? I think it was it Marjorie Taylor Greene that called Boebert a bitch or something like that? Like there's some snarkiness between women. Let's not be, but no. Am I gonna can you imagine? Can you imagine if I don't know, Kamala Harris, not Kamala, I mean, she's the vice president, but a female senator and a Teamsters person or someone from the ACLU or whatever started duking it out. It is beneath all of these people to do something like this. But again, it is a symbol of where we are in our political discourse. What are they arguing about? I mean, think about it. We're talking about the Teamsters, unions, working families, those sorts of things. Yes, we can have disagreements about, wages and healthcare and things like that. Why does it have to devolve? Why does it have to devolve into something like this? It's just, it's sad. I wish it didn't happen because again, it is just one of those things where, God, where are we as a country? Where are we as a country where we can't have a simple hearing without it devolving into something like this? And yeah, I know some of you, I've been reading in some of the comments, you can't blame Trump for it. I definitely think we turned a very sad page into this realm where behavior like this, childish behavior, kids, high school kids, you know what I mean? I'll even say college guys, they act like this. Senators, get it together. And I love that Bernie Sanders was the voice of reason. Can you imagine if Bernie Sanders had to break up that fight? Oh, Bernie. No, I just don't get it. And again, I wish that it didn't happen. All right. Kim has lost her power. I'm assuming Kim's not coming back. She keeps texting me. Kim, if you're watching, don't worry about it, honey. You lost your power. You can take the day until your power comes back on. And hopefully she'll be on with Mark Thompson after this show. And of course, After Party Live with John Daly. I do want to take this moment as we're reaching the top of the end of the first hour of the show to do our business, right? Make sure you've clicked that thumbs up button to show your support for the show. The super chat is also live, and that's a way for you guys to throw a super sticker, a super thanks, a super comment. I miss Kim, right? But I love having all of you here, and I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Now, our Patreon is live. There's a simple way to become an official Medorable, so make sure you are one. Just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. Our Patreon link is there. If you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching anywhere else, it's usually in the About section, or just look for the links, and all of the links are there. If you want PayPal, you can just hit send money. And the email address to PayPal us money is thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. You will see the show logo and confirmation that it is for the Nikki Medoro Show, so you don't have to worry about that. I do have some more merch up on the site. I have some buttons. We're still waiting to see if I get my experiment works, and if not, I'll get the buttons to you guys some way. But there are pins that the business that does the t-shirts and the bags and the tumblers and everything that you could find on our merch shop, they just added it. It wasn't there before, because believe me, it would have been way easier to go through them. But they have a pack of 5, and so for one price you get 5 buttons, including one from the show, and then some funny sayings that are totally me, or totally the show, or totally what we talk about. So, and I'll be adding more stuff. The holidays are coming. I'll be doing some videos with some of my favorite things that will include affiliate links if you want to support me in that way as well, because then I get commission. But either way, I just always appreciate each and every one of you being here and supporting the show in any way that you can. And if you could bump up your Patreon, I'd appreciate that as well. Okay, so someone was mentioning at the start of the show that today is National Bundt Cake Day. I missed this yesterday, and I kind of feel a little shameful that I missed it, in all honesty. Yesterday was Ruby Bridges' Walk to School Day. And Sacramento had something, San Pablo had something. Yesterday, traffic officers joined students from St. Paul's School to celebrate Ruby Bridges' Walk to School Day. It commemorates the heroism of Ruby Bridges. Of course, we know who she was. She was 6. She was 6 years old when she integrated into William Franz Elementary School in New Orleans. Her act of showing up for school every day obviously played an important role in the movement for equality. We all know that image of Ruby Bridges walking into school with people protesting. Again, one of the buttons that you can buy on my merch shop says, "I love banned books." If a 6-year-old was able to live it, this is a common saying now, if you're a 6-year-old can live it, your middle schooler can read about it. Okay? Suck it up, Buttercup. That's another button. Suck it up, Buttercup. That's another button. Put it on the list. But yeah, it was Ruby Bridges Day. So a bunch of students in San Pablo were walking to school. It spread to Sacramento as well. It always makes me wonder when I hear about stories like this, what resonates with kids, right? The parents can be up in arms. Remember we were talking last week about Moms for Liberty, getting a librarian, getting the cops called on a librarian for pornographic books that they're obsessed with. I always wonder, what do the kids think about it? Like, I can't imagine. Like, I talk to my kids about it all the time. I think I'm raising critical thinkers. That's what I want. Critical thinkers. And believe me, they throw me some curveballs, my kids, right? My kids ask me, like, one that's a common debate, what is a cult? Am I in a cult? Is religion a cult? Like, that was out of left field. Very recently, we had that conversation. We talk about cults all the time with politics and things like that. But I always wonder what kids think when they learn about someone like Ruby Bridges, what she went through, and even the pictures in the book, right? I mean, the fact that she went to school by herself because parents wouldn't let their own kids play with her or be in school with her, that wasn't long ago. We think of it. We look at a picture in a book. We're like, oh, that was totally from a different time. Think about the times we live in right now, where for some reason, there is a segment of our population that doesn't want children to understand our true history because it makes them feel bad. Why do you feel bad? I don't feel bad. Like, personally, like that it's my fault. If my child reads about it, that it's somehow, oh my God, they're going to hate themselves. No, they hate what happened. We could teach history. You can look like the person that committed the atrocity or whatever, or the discrimination, and still not make that your identity. You could, in turn, instead, look at what happened and say, you know what, I'm not going to be like those people. Those people might look like me, have the same privilege as me, but I'm going to use my privilege in a different way. And I don't understand why there's so many groups across the country that can't do that. Why they so identify with the people that didn't want Ruby Bridges instead of identifying with those that stood next to her, right? And that's what boggles my mind. And maybe that's the rub, right? That's why. It's because they realize they do maybe deep down in the parts they don't talk about. It's really, really hard. It's just hard to come to terms with the fact of where we are as a country in 2023. But at the same time, I'm happy to see stuff like this happening. Let's see. In 2020, the Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day grew into a national event. In 2021, the California State Senate passed a resolution declaring yesterday, November 14th, as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. One police officer said, today her story continues to inspire the next generation of leaders to end racism together, one step at a time. It really is about acceptance, right? It really is about looking at each other and just understanding that most people, I would say arguably all people, want the same thing. They want to be safe. They want to be happy. They want a roof over their head. They don't want to worry about everything all the time. They don't want to worry about themselves. They don't want to always be constantly worrying about their family. Now, that's not going to be 100% every single day, 24/7 true. Hardship happens, but it shouldn't be your life. It shouldn't be that every single time you step out of your house, you're being attacked, right? And while I'm encouraged by those that, want to emulate or honor the work of people like Ruby Bridges and others and so many others, we do find ourselves in the midst of a pushing back on equality, whether it's, our reproductive rights, whether it's, even being accepted into schools. And I really think that a lot of it has to do with fear of the unknown, fear of never being exposed to things. We talk about the reach of social media, right? And what it's done to people. And there's been so many positives, right? Like, you now know what your ex did and ate for dinner or whatever. I mean, that's silly stuff. There's movements, right? I mean, when you want to get a lot of people behind your cause, social media makes it so easy. Oh, Kim's in the car. Hello, friend. I don't know if you could have just waited until your power came on, but let's see if we have Kim.
What's going on?
Oh,
there
we were. Okay, you're in your car.
Bam, power out. I'm in the car. I'm on the phone. How are you?
I'm good. Is it raining where you are?
It's about to sprinkle in the next hour, but it hasn't yet. But the
power. So you don't know why the power's out? Oh,
no,
okay.
The entire neighborhood, including the high school, like the whole neighborhood's gone. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being here.
It's like we live in Cuba or something. I don't know. Like, what happened?
Kim McAllister, the hardest working woman on YouTube, I swear to God, even doing it from the car. Well, what we were talking about, Kim, before you hopped on, we were talking about Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day, which is great. And it was just such a great example of teaching children about the fact that, we can look different and all those sorts of things. And while it's great to strive for equality, in 2023, it's really hard to not get discouraged, right? I mean, again, I would say that between reproductive rights and also LGBTQ issues, right? Transgender people in sports. I make fun of Nikki Haley for constantly saying that transgender women in sports is the women's issue of our generation, which is like, wait, what?
Really?
Forced pregnancy isn't? Okay, fine.
No,
but
you know what the women's issue of our generation is? That people like Nikki Haley are trying to take my reproductive rights away.
Exactly.
That's the issue of our generation.
The fact that Nikki Haley is voting against her own interests, is promoting things against her and her daughter's own interests, boggles my mind.
Not the
and
best
then of course
no,
and then of course there's trans rights and what's going to happen moving forward with people. Obviously we've seen people be elected to Congress that are part of the trans community, which is huge. But on the family scale, what it means, even gay marriage, right? It seems to be on the chopping block and at risk with this with this U.S. Supreme Court. But I do also think that people with a platform can help bridge that gap. That can help maybe change minds. And I wanted to play you this video of Marlon Wayans. He's from the Wayans brothers. You know him. He's an actor. He's a comedian. His child has transitioned. And I want to play you this because not only is it Marlon Wayans, who's a celebrity, And it can't be easy when you have a platform as big to say what's going personally in your life. But he talks about how not only did his child transition, but he transitioned as well. And it's a really beautiful thing that he said. And I just wanted to play a little bit of it.
I have a daughter that transitioned into a son. My daughter Amai is now Kai.
Truthful.
And so so I talk about the transition, not her their transition, but my transition as a parent, going from ignorance and denial to complete unconditional love and acceptance. And I think there's a lot of parents out there that need to have that message. And I know I'm dealing with it. It was a very painful situation for me, but man, it's one of the best, funniest hours I probably could ever imagine.
I can't see your child come up to you and ask you, because you joke too much. So I can see a child say, Dad, I'm thinking of transitioning. And I could just see you take nothing serious.
I always joke. They know. I told my daughter, I said, nigga, you transitioning into your brother. You look just like him. See, I can't tell the difference between her and Sean. Like, I swear to God. I'm about 23 and 21. Oh, so but I got to respect their wishes, right? And that takes, as a parent, I just want my kids to be free. I want them to be free in spirit, free in thought, free to be themselves. The more you know yourself, the more you can govern yourself, the more you live your truth, the happier your existence. So if they can't get that in the household with their father and their mother, how the fuck do I send them out into the world with that kind of confidence?
Right.
And I'm just so proud of them for being them. But that don't mean that they ain't got jokes.
So he's got jokes. I mean, that just, it got me in all the feels. You know what I mean? Yeah. It can't be easy. I cannot imagine what it must feel like to be a parent of a son or a daughter. And then they come to you and they say, I feel like I'm in the wrong body. I want to transition, and whatever slow rollout that becomes. Maybe it starts with the names and the pronouns, and then, could go all the way to surgery. I have no comprehension of what that may be like. But what I do know is what he said about if I can't accept them, if I am a negative place in this world for them, what are they going to get from strangers out there? So no, I'm going to send them off to this world with all of the confidence that I can instill in them, because the world is not going to be kind to them all the time. And I would say that the number one thing that keeps parents up at night are their kids worrying, are they happy? Am I messing them up? Did I do something wrong? Or do they have friends? I mean, the worrying that goes on, it should be a second job that we should be paid for. I mean, the amount of worrying I do that my kids just do not give me any credit for, right, is just so hard. But I love how he said it. And I also love the fact that, Marlon Wayans is also part of the African-American community. And when you're part of the African-American community, that can, in some communities, lead to some, that's not what we do here, right? Whether it's being gay, whether it's being trans, it can't always be easy. And so I do applaud Marlon Wayans for kind of sticking his neck out there. And I would say it shouldn't be hard to stick your neck out for your kid, right? But it can be sometimes. It can be, especially when you don't fully understand what is going on. And it's really hard. But I do think that it can help convince people when people with a platform do that.
I've heard it said from people that have had kids transition from one gender to another, that it's like and I don't want to take anything away from someone who's lost a child in this life, because I can't imagine anything more devastating. But I've heard it said that it's almost like the death of a child, because you're losing that kid that you've always had. You've always had this son, right? And then they change into a daughter. Well, you've lost that son. Really, it's the same person.
Yes.
But for some parents, the change is so devastating to them that it feels like the loss of one child and kind of like the birth of another.
And you're absolutely correct. And I will even say, and again, not exactly the same, but I would even say, if, let's say, your son or daughter said that they were gay, right? Maybe the dream you had let's say, of your daughter being pregnant. Not saying it can't still happen, because obviously science can help with that. But, some of these things that you just imagine, I imagined that I would know my child's opposite sex spouse. These daydreams that parents have in their mind, while it's natural to do, parents need to remember it is a daydream about a life that is not yours.
Right.
That is
That's
not
exactly right.
that is not your life. You gave
Yeah.
birth to that life. You raised that life. That person is allowed to be there themselves.
Right.
Beth says, it was painful enough coming out to my family. I cannot even imagine how difficult going through a transition would be for the whole family. Randy says, depending on how old the child is when they come to you, support your kid, but don't let them do anything that's not reversible until they're older. Nothing irreversible happens to a child. It doesn't. Changing somebody's name and pronouns is reversible if they want to, right? If you're talking about
maybe
top
he's
or
talking about
bottom surgery,
stopping puberty, like puberty blockers and all that.
you can stop taking puberty blockers
Mm-hmm.
at some point. It's not irreversible. Okay. You can delay puberty and all those sorts of things. And again, going back to our rights as individuals, our parental rights, it is not my place to tell you how you should respond to your child.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If your kid comes to you and says something, you could say what you want, and I could agree or I could disagree. It is not my right to tell another parent or another person what they can or cannot do in their own family. That's not my right. I don't know their situation. I'm not in their mind. I'm not in their body. It's a bit, crazy that we think that we could do something like that.
This is horrible, Rod. I'm so sorry that was the reaction. Says, when I came out as gay to my dad, all he could say was, "Where did I go wrong?" God.
When I read
nowhere.
that, all I
He went wrong nowhere.
No. But when I read that, I wonder if there's a religious aspect to this. When you subscribe to a religion that promotes homosexuality as a sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could see, I'm not saying, Rod, that it came from a religious aspect, and I'm not saying you have to be religious for people to think that way, but that's the first thing that came into my mind. And I just, where you went wrong, and what I would have said is, right now is where you're going wrong. This is the moment. I came to you, and parents will know this. There are many moments where you're like, shoot, I messed up. I should have responded in a different way. I should have said a different thing. I should have taken a beat, right? And then responded. I did it just this week. And I really hurt my daughter's feelings. Yeah. I mean, I hurt my daughter's feelings. And I'm not even going to share what it is, because that would be adding on top of it. But I hurt my daughter's feelings, and I really feel bad about it. And I apologize. And she did accept my apology, but we're human and we make mistakes, and, where you go wrong. And I think if you've already made a mistake, is not acknowledging it and thinking that you're above apologizing to children or anything like that. Like, that's not right. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Parenting is hard.
I think I haven't given my kids enough self-confidence, and maybe because I don't have enough myself, that's where I went wrong. Last night we're in the car and Julia's talking about her friends that have boyfriends.
Right.
And she's not had a boyfriend. She's a freshman. She's 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, do you want a boyfriend? Or are there cute boys at your school? And she said, oh, there's lots of cute boys. She said, but there's also really, really pretty girls, and they have a lot better choices than me.
Oh, that's really sad.
I said, what do you mean they have better choices than you? She said, they're really beautiful, Mom. There's really beautiful girls at my school. I said, do you not think that you're a great choice?
Beautiful.
Do you not think that
Right.
you're as beautiful as anyone else? She is. She's gorgeous. She says, you don't understand, Mom. There's just really beautiful girls there. Like, I'm not like that. And I thought, okay, what have I done wrong? Because I haven't given her enough self-confidence. Like, how do I do that to her? How do I make her feel like she's as good, if not, equal to anybody else at that place? I don't know what
And
I
it's
did.
okay to say better. I wouldn't blame yourself either. I think that you can try and be the most confident person in the world. Insecurities at that age are so common. And then this is the snarky mom in me. I'm like, well, what are those other girls wearing? You know what I mean? Like,
but see, that my point is, yeah, that's the thing is
attracting boys, you know what I mean? Like, come on now.
We all have these moments where we're, thinking that we screwed up or that we're thinking that we didn't do it right. So,
exactly.
I think everyone has that.
Maud, thank you so much for the $25 donation to our super chat. That is so generous. Maud writes, thank you for giving people a safe place to vent. We love you. Well, we love you guys
really
too.
nice.
And I do want to be a safe place. I mean, the first part of the show, we were talking about a really tough political issue, which is asylum and sanctuary cities. And I do welcome, other ideas. And with this, I understand how emotional it can be as a parent. And Doug, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker as well. I really love the community and I love seeing new names in our community. Welcome. The water here feels damn good, especially when I hope that we've created a space for people to talk. Rod says it wasn't religion, by the way. I said it was narcissism. Oh yeah. Kim says no girl that age has that self-confidence. It comes with age. Absolutely. But going back to Rod's comment, he says, my mom, on the other hand, was terrific. I told her on the beach in Kihei on Maui, where we lived at the time. And she said that it didn't matter to her. She loves me no matter what I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well done, Rod's mom.
That's the only message that the parents should give. Now, Kim, as far as your daughter, I mean, you can't give false confidence, right? You have to just instill in them that, well, one, comparing yourself to other people it's a no-win game. Right? There will always, you can talk to celebrities. You could talk to who you think is the most beautiful person in the world. And if you ask them if they have anything they'd want to change about themselves, there would be a laundry list of things, right? Nobody's perfect. Nobody's the most beautiful or the smartest or the most accomplished in their minds, right? And so I would say, I would just say what you're feeling is completely normal. It's completely normal to feel insecure about it. But you have to push it aside and understand that you bring to the table a lot of things and the right person will notice them. If you haven't noticed anyone noticing them, they're not your person. Right. And they're young. And that's my whole thing. It's like, you're so young. And if you want to have fun with it, you can go back and look at all these celebrities when they were in high school and see how they looked and be like, well, there you go. Right. Everybody grows and matures and does all of these things, but it's normal to feel that way. My daughter was telling me about one of her friends, and it was really kind of sad. A teenage girl, where because of the household that she grew up in, and the relationship between her parents, which isn't the healthiest, that she's afraid that she's going to grow up and no one's going to love her enough. No one's going to love her as much as she loves them. She's 14, 15 years old. That's heavy, right? That is a heavy belief system to have so young. And I was like, it's because they've only lived so much life, right? The life that they live is all encompassing. There is no forward thinking. I mean, you know it. Any parent knows your kids do not look at you as if you were ever their age, right? God, how could we ever understand? Well, I could, because it wasn't that long ago. In my mind, it was 10 years ago that I was 15. If you want to know the truth, it wasn't that long ago. And, but they have to go through it. And there's no easy way but through, as the old saying goes. Harry, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Thank you for gently handling such a sensitive topic. There are too many who would never experience that. Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard. And again, just to go back to what started this conversation with Marlon Wayans, and even the conversation that we're having right here, showing that it can be a mature conversation, showing that we understand that it's hard, showing that there are insecurities, that there are, oh my God, what are people going to think? What do I really think? Right? All of those things are normal. They're natural. But I think that if you default to giving your kid love and acceptance and a place to express themselves, you can't truly go wrong.
Well, I talked about it being like this cycle, this circle, because if you don't go out into the world with confidence, then you're not going to project that, right? And so people.
Do you think she doesn't?
I thought she did. I mean, she's really funny, and so I think she seems confident, but I guess this is all going in on the inside. But I said, if you don't believe in yourself, how are other people going to believe in you? You have to start from a place where you believe that you're
Yes.
worthy,
Right.
right? That you believe that you're as good as anyone else. So, you know, that you believe that you're attractive and that you're, you know, engaging or whatever. Because if you don't think that about yourself, then you don't go out into the world and project that, and other people aren't going to see it.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to fake it. You know, that whole thing, fake it until you make it. That doesn't
Yep.
just apply to the job. It applies to,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just gonna, you know, I've probably mentioned this before. There's this trick that a lot of people use to gain confidence. And it's if you're in a bathroom or somewhere private before you have to, like, let's say, give a speech or go out and meet a lot of people, that you stand in the Superman pose for like a minute, right? 30 seconds to a minute. And it's supposed to kind of like just kind of have this strong stance. And it's supposed to put you kind of in that zone. If you feel bad, smiling, even if it starts out as fake, right? Can help. Having these things that you can think about that make you feel good about yourself, right? Oh, I aced that test. I did good on that piano composition. I really enjoyed playing with my sibling. That makes me feel good. Thinking about the things that make you feel good to put yourself in the right mind frame. Yeah, Vicky, they may have to fake it. You know what I mean? Okay, so you're nervous. So you don't feel that you can do it. Don't focus on that. Focus on something that can get you through that moment. And then the next moment. And then the next moment. Because kids these age in 2023, there are so many different things that will send a message to your kids that you're not good enough, that you're not pretty enough, that you're not smart enough, that you're not rich enough. You can have everything given to you and it's still not enough. And again, that confidence, that enough feeling, it's not going to come from somebody else giving it to you. Social media is not going to give it to you. Even your parents can only give you so much. I always say it, the tape recorder, because I'm a 90s kid, the tape recorder that plays inside your brain is the number one way that you can grow your own confidence, that you can live this life in happiness and feeling like you're enough. What do you tell yourself? What do you tell yourself when you look in the mirror? Do you tell yourself that you're enough? Or do you, the minute you look in the mirror, you say, this is wrong with me and that is wrong with me and I need to change that and that's never going to change? You know, and I've mentioned my son before, you know, he's a boy, he's at that age, he's shorter stature. And I'm blunt with him. I'm like, look, you can cry. And he never does. My son is extremely confident, by the way. I mean, at least I think he is, right? I'm like, you can bemoan, let's say, the fact that you're not 6 feet tall. That's not going to make you grow. All it's going to do is make you feel less than, right? All it's going to do is perpetuate this thinking that if only I was tall, then fill in the blank. And that's not true. I know 6 foot tall guys, most insecure people that I know, right? It's the confidence. It's the tape recorder in your mind that tells you who you are. And when you have that confidence, when you develop that confidence, when you practice that confidence, when you fake it till you make it, that's when you see changes. You know, I could give 2 rats' asses about so many things in life, but I wasn't always that way. You know, and I still am not that way with everything, but you work on it. You absolutely worked on it. Cheryl says, I raised 3 daughters and worked on the things that would improve their self-esteem before the teenage years. I began with my girls when they were little. Absolutely. I will say this, though. You know, just as it seems like daughters, like 1 minute you send them to bed and they come out teenagers. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, they're wearing makeup when the night before they were, you know, playing in Princess, those sorts of things. It seems like it happens overnight. I will say with puberty, hormonally comes some sort of insecurities. And some of them are justified, right? You're a teenager, you start getting pimples, start smelling, you start, you know, getting turned on in class when you don't want to be, those sorts of things. That you can't ignore that. That's worthy of being insecure about. Nobody wants to have acne. No one wants any of those awkward things to happen. And yet it does. And so you just be like, yeah, it happened to you, but look at all these other people that it's happening to. You think you're insecure? You think everybody in your class is confident? You think everybody in their class gets who they want, gets the grades they want, lives where they want? No. Not only that, it's never going to happen. Let's see. Rod says, tell him 6 feet tall isn't all that great, especially if you're a helicopter pilot. Yeah. Duck. Okay. Thank
I have
you
a
guys.
surprise for you.
Oh,
I'm told
what?
the power is back on at my house. So I'm going to
Okay.
go try to log in and go on camera. All right.
Okay. You go. You go, girl. You go, girl. We'll see you here a little soon. Thank you, Kim.
All right.
I'm glad that you guys are really enjoying the conversation.